welcome Molly Spillman, EVP of Sales and Operations for Millennial.
Thank
Molly.
you. Yay. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for being here today.
My pleasure. This thing is in my back.
So, mobile programmatic. What's the state of the world right now from your perspective?
Well, since we've launched MMX, our exchange, it's really taken off. I think that Millennial, as you said, is the leader in mobile advertising, taking a stand, showing support for programmatic, partnering with you guys, a leader in the space, to bring, the world's first large independent mobile ad exchange to light has just been amazing. It's been like a rocket ship. So we have 180 buyers. We're in 40 countries. And so what we're seeing in our business is explosive growth, but we just were reading the new Ad Exchanger programmatic study, and it was really interesting to see that 96% of all digital buyers are doing something in programmatic, and 76% of people buying mobile are doing something programmatic. So people are moving faster in mobile than they did, adopting programmatic in the digital world. But the dollars aren't necessarily there yet. So people are testing, but with small budgets, and I think there's a huge opportunity for people as they get more comfortable with this medium, with the tools, with the data, with transparency, that they'll be able to do more. And I think, you're probably seeing it now that we've partnered, since your experience has been more on the desktop side, how mobile is really, people are just adopting it so much faster.
Yeah. Oh, I can attest to that. I mean, in display, display, traditional wired PC display was around for 10 or 15 years before programmatic started getting mainstream adoption. So there was all kinds of really deeply ingrained business processes and ways of doing things that had to be undone or changed. And that doesn't exist to the same extent in mobile. It's much more greenfield, obviously.
Yep. And I think, the other thing that we've seen with, the adoption of mobile programmatic is that mobile is a lot more complex than desktop. You have different operating systems. You have, just so many more devices. There's just a lot more complexity with consumer usage skyrocketing. So the amount of supply is overwhelming. That media buyers, agencies, and big marketers really need this technology to help manage and take advantage of the opportunity in mobile, because doing it on a managed basis is hard enough, and thinking about your total mobile spending programmatically is absolutely kind of an imperative, especially on the agency side.
This has got to be like a sort of the early part of the learning curve when you're talking to agencies as it relates to mobile. I remember when we were starting the ad exchanges back in the day, there was a couple years where there was just a lot of evangelism and education and hand-holding and things like that happened. Ultimately, people loved and really embraced the value proposition. Where do you think we are in that curve right now, and how's Millennial playing it?
I think it's really early days. Our team who works on MMX the day is packed from morning till night, educating clients, doing that hand-holding. Everybody has such a large thirst to understand what they can get from mobile programmatic. Then when they look at the results, how do they interpret them? How do they make the most of them, and then continue to invest? And so a lot of it is education. And so we do lunches. We're literally on the phone with our clients. Some of the bigger spenders, on a daily basis. Frank will go over some of the research, but we're trying to uncover, what are the other friction points that maybe we don't even see that our clients are feeling? What are the insecurities? What are the uncertainties? So I think we're in the really beginning phases of that education, but I do think, like we said before, it's going to go a lot faster.
Yeah.
So I think people were more patient in desktop because it was a completely new way of doing things, and so it took a little bit longer. I think that, the curve will, the same curve will happen, but it'll happen a lot faster. It'll be a roller coaster ride, for sure.
And what is it that's resonating most? You've been talking recently about the fact that you're experimenting with private marketplaces for the first time. What are some of the things that you're finding are really resonating and kind of setting off light bulbs among the buyers and getting them excited about this opportunity?
I think the amount of control they have, the transparency. Mobile is so complex. You have in-app inventory, like I said, you have mobile web, you have different operating systems, and so getting more insight into what you're buying. The data goes along with the transparency, but the data points that you're able to glean from running on our exchange, all of that has really been eye-opening for a lot of our buyers. And then more recently, folks who are experimenting with private marketplaces, that completely resonates as another level of control. And then, I would say globally, we just had a big meeting in Asia, is cross-screen. And so tying desktop and mobile together is, really bringing a whole new amount of interest in terms of different sectors of buyers who, weren't as fast to move on just the mobile piece, but now when you have cross-screen, that they want to go all in.
Yeah, it seems like, you can't go a day right now without reading about cross-screen and how agencies and buyers are just like, there's a huge amount of innovation and excitement going into that space. That's always been a strength and big investment area for Millennial.
Absolutely, and I think that's, also one of the reasons why we wanted to work with you on our exchange, because of your background. And it was kind of like, I don't know, I'm old, but the peanut butter and chocolate coming together and to form Reese's.
Yeah.
And it just happened by accident. We didn't happen by accident, but it was kind of the perfect. You're coming from the desktop side and your investment in that technology. We're coming together from mobile first, mobile only. But putting these two pieces together would be an amazing candy bar is pretty good.
Yeah, it has been great. Our clients love it, and it's been a fantastic partnership. Your CEO on your recent earnings call talked about the fact that the programmatic efforts have grown faster than were expected, and that there's been great results and really good early signs of indication, like early indicators. Anything you could talk about, whether it's like an actual client or just some anecdotal experiences of, folks who have done testing or jumped in and worked with you and found good results? I mean, clearly the volume is growing, the inventory is there. As you mentioned earlier, it's the largest source of programmatic mobile ad inventory. What's the case study on your mind?
Well, I can't, use a client's name because didn't ask, but for example, we had one client that was a little bit reticent of coming in and being one of our first buyers on the exchange, and we got them educated. They tested. They weren't really sure how to value the results they were seeing. Is that good in comparison? And we're all kind of in this together. And with consultation and increased spend, we were able to show. I mean, they've increased their spend tenfold since we've started, and it's only been a couple months. And we are their go-to mobile exchange. They're delivering for their clients, and we now have a handful of those case studies. Like I said, we have 180 buyers, but not all of them are spending at that level. But we're using, like we said, education is so important. So we're using those case studies of folks who are spending, who are getting the ROI, and we're making each other smarter. We're sharing those results with others so that the whole ecosystem kind of starts thriving at a higher level.
Yeah. I mean, you've had a front row seat to the growth, the explosive growth of mobile and mobile programmatic. Where do you see this thing going? I mean, if you look like 3, 4, 5 years ahead, what do you think mobile looks like? Is mobile even a thing?
God, I mean, I can't predict what's going to happen in 6 months, let alone, I don't know, a year. The whole market is white hot. It's moving so fast. I wouldn't pretend to make a statement, but what I do know is that it's only going up and to the right. There, as consumers, are moving across screens in a very fluid way between TV, mobile, desktop, so many different devices that I think to be a company that really services marketers and agencies, you have to be able to move with the consumer. Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to move across screens, and you can't just work on one screen if you're going to be, a global thriving company. And so, so we have plans to go in that direction. The ad units that will be available, the metrics, the attribution, all of those things, are kind of mind-boggling and are really hard problems to solve. But I think those will be the areas that the industry focuses on, and it'll be really exciting. But I'll probably watch this tape in 6 months and it'll be totally outdated. So probably there'll be some new thing that I can't even think about.
Last question for you. We've got a lot of companies here, whether they're agencies, ad networks, trading desks, folks like that, who have built big, substantial businesses in online display. What's the call to action if they want to get started in mobile media but are just taking the first steps? What's the best way?
I think you have to reach out to us. We have a great team. I think that ignoring mobile or putting it off to the side is a mistake. There's so much synergy between desktop and mobile. And what you learn in mobile can make desktop smarter and vice versa. And so it's really easy to get up, and this is like the sales pitch, but it's really easy to get up and going. We have an awesome team that can help you do it. We will do whatever it takes to educate, be transparent, help you with benchmarks and whatever it might be. But the whole space is moving so fast, and the results we're seeing are so encouraging that I would, tell anybody in this room to talk to Millennial or people at AppNexus, and we'll help you get going.
Cool. Molly, great to see you. We'll have you back in 6 months and see if any of this turned out to be true. Cool. With that, I would like to introduce our next speaker, the Chief Revenue Officer of Millennial Media, Frank Weishaupt. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done. All right, I've been told in order to look good for the camera, I have to stay on this strip during the entire presentation, and I like to walk around, so this is going to be a big challenge. So I'm going to try to do it through my hands instead. And I'm going to walk like this, too. Okay, now that Michael and Molly have taken you through a little bit about the opportunity, I want to take a deeper dive down a little bit first into just some understanding of consumer behaviors in mobile, and then we'll also talk about what buyers are saying about mobile and speak to the research that Michael said that we're going to show you a little bit later in the presentation. First, I think we have to start with the on-the-go consumer. People are constantly moving today between screens, locations, and moments. And to take a dive down into that, in the first time in 2013, more than 50% of all consumers jumped across multiple screens on a daily basis. 74% of U.S. smartphone users say that they've used some sort of location-enabled device, and 90% of them have captured their moments using their smartphone's camera. And mobile's the thing that ties this all together and gives us the signals that we can use in order to find those consumers in those moments. Now, I work for a mobile-first company, so of course I have to start out by telling you how big the opportunity is in mobile. In 2012, for the first time, the total number of active mobile devices outweighed the total worldwide population. And in fact, by 2016, for every 1 person in the world, there'll be 1.4 active mobile devices. There are more Android devices activated on a daily basis than there are children born in the world. In fact, the gap is pretty wide. There's roughly 300,000 to 400,000 children born in the world on a daily basis, and there are 1.5 million Android devices activated on a daily basis. And we've seen this explosion across our network as well. We've seen massive growth in Android impressions, continued growth in iOS impressions, and this is mostly at the expense of both feature phone as well as BlackBerry inventory. How addicted are we to our devices? roughly 55% of us in this room and across the United States say that we'd rather give up caffeine than our smartphone. And I'm not even going to tell you what the research indicates as it relates to giving up your smartphone versus intimacy with your partner, or giving up your smartphone versus the use of indoor plumbing. I think that one's a little more bothersome than any of them. I'll let your imaginations run wild there. Okay, we're also checking our devices 150 times a day on average. That is roughly every 6 minutes, which means during my 12 to 15-minute presentation, you are going to check your smartphone 2 to 3 times. And if you are bored with the content, you may check it 10 to 15 times. Again, these are all signals for marketers to use. The good thing about mobile is that we have all these signals, and it's giving us all this opportunity. The thing that we also have to remember is, as a marketer or a partner of ours, you have to move with the moments of the consumer. The consumer is constantly in motion, and what they're doing and something that may be relevant in the morning is not relevant in the afternoon, and you have to be nimble enough to make sure that you're using those signals wisely. What are we doing with our time in mobile? Well, first of all, the time in mobile is now actually equal to that in desktop. We used to go through from spotty connectivity using our devices, and now we're constantly in contact. And actually, when you look at the usage patterns of the consumers during the day, we're using multiple mediums at the same time. Actually, 90% of U.S. consumers say that they have access to their smartphone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that is within reach. And 4 out of 5 of us are checking our smartphone within 15 minutes of waking in any given day. And you can see how we're consuming our content along the way and using multiple mediums in conjunction with each other. Our phones are not just our phones anymore. The top three uses for your phone on a daily basis: number 1 is music, number 2 is social, and number 3 is surfing the web. Using the phone, the voice part of the phone, and using text is just a small part of what we're actually doing on these devices. And to Molly's point earlier, you can't ignore mobile. In fact, I'll give you a stat: 14% of moms are actually mobile only at this point. They're not even on desktop. So as a marketer, you're ignoring an entire segment of the population if you're not focused on mobile. How does mobile impact commerce? Well, 65% of consumers say that they start their shopping on a smartphone and continue it on a PC or a tablet. So there again is an entire set of the population, more than half, are using their smartphone, and you have to be in the consideration set, and therefore you have to be leveraging these devices in a way that you're getting your message out in front of them at the right place at the right time. What does this mean for marketers? Ultimately, as Michael and Molly were talking about, the technology is there, attribution is there, targeting capabilities are there, and the money is starting to move very fast. By 2017, we expect that mobile will actually take over desktop in terms of total media spend US-wide, and it's actually moving programmatically. One of the surprising statistics I think most of you would see by looking at this chart, and this is a Magna study done last year, is more money is actually moving programmatically in mobile than is in desktop. Now, you would think to yourself that desktop is far more mature of a programmatic environment and far more of a mature environment as it stands, but yet you can see from the research that 68% of dollars are moving in mobile programmatically, while only 58% in 2013 in desktop moved programmatically. Okay, let's get to a little bit of the research that Michael alluded to earlier. So this is proprietary research that was done by Millennial Media. It's about 165 buyers that we went out and surveyed, and we're going to give you some of the details of those results. First of all, who responded to the survey? About 60% of the respondents were from agencies and trading desks, and about 60% of them were director level or above, and roughly half of those were at the C level. So some significant decision makers and leaders within their organization. What were the results? Well, 77%, more than 3/4, said that they have bought or are planning to buy programmatically in mobile in the next 12 months. Speaking to what I said earlier about mobile being programmatic first, you can see that 58% of the respondents actually said that they're currently buying mobile programmatically today, while 52% are buying desktop programmatically today. A little bit surprising that mobile would be a little bit further along than desktop currently is. Looking at the makeup of the organizations in those areas that are currently buying programmatic, you can see that the mobile and the online side, they mirror each other in certain spots, but agencies and DSP make up the majority in mobile, whereas agencies and trading desks make up the majority in online. And the two statistics below show that there's a little bit of a mirror image there as well when it comes to both brands and agencies. Roughly 43% of brands are buying programmatically across both, 43 in mobile and 50 in desktop as it relates to buying programmatically currently. This is a slide that in the survey that I think speaks a little bit to the power of programmatic and the flexibility of programmatic. On the left, to orient you with the slide, this is where the respondents were currently located, and on the right was where their campaigns were targeted. So you can see on the left, I'll give you some examples. Orange represents people that were responding to the survey from Europe, and yet 34% of the campaigns ran in Europe. Same goes for APAC. Roughly 10% were located in Asia Pacific, but about 20% of the total campaigns were run in APAC. Flexibility, transparency, trust, and the ability to be nimble is really what programmatic offers, and I think you see that in these results right here. A view on spend, what the buyers are telling us is that they're moving their money fast. Spending between 1 and 5 and more than 15 is going to double. And spending between 5 and 10 increased tenfold. We showed earlier by 2017 mobile will overtake desktop in terms of total spend. You're going to see a dramatic shift in this chart in the next 3 years. Okay, what ad formats are they buying? I think everybody in this room would say banner first. You can see that they're spread out across all the different engaging formats that will drive higher engagement and higher return on clicks for their space. And it's spread pretty evenly across some of these. And I can think one of the things I want to point out on the right is on the in-app side, one of the things that Millennial can do in working with us, especially those of you that are native to the online side, is we can help bridge your audiences from online into in-app. I think that is something that eludes most people, is how you target in-app when you come over to the mobile side. Most valuable parts of running campaigns programmatically: targeting, real-time optimization, and control. So I think that's the across-the-board survey. I wanted to break that down a little bit more because one of the things that always comes up when you think about programmatic is price. You think that for some reason programmatic is associated with either non-premium or exchange inventory is non-premium, but that's not what's on buyers' minds. That's not what it is. Programmatic is all about efficiency, and you can see the targeting and the efficiency are what people are really focused on. In the top 3, agencies and brands did bring up efficiency in pricing, but it was a relatively small amount of respondents. The other part that Molly touched on as well is data transparency is critical. It more than doubles the next reason why you choose a partner in programmatic. It's all about having the opportunity to make sure that you're in the right environment and understanding all the details that come with the impressions that you're purchasing. Buyers also want to be hands-on. 51% of the respondents are using some form of a self-serve application to be able to buy. They want to do it themselves. Some are resource constrained, and you can see that they're using managed services, and they're trying to do a little bit of both themselves. So I think this is, again, it's new. People are very engaged in being self-serve, and it's certainly going to lead that way as we sit here 6, 12, and 18 months from now and review the results of the next round of this survey. Now, with any new business, of course, there are challenges, and we'd be ignorant not to acknowledge those challenges because as an industry, we need to work through those challenges. I think 2 of the things I'd point out on here is, again, transparency is key, but the other part of it is inventory quality. People really want to understand the inventory that they're accessing and the inventory that they are bidding on, and it's up to us to give them the controls and also access to the right inventory so that they have a high level of comfort representing their brands in the right environment. Molly gave her sales pitch. I'll give you a little bit of my sales pitch. So when it comes to scale and when it comes to mobile, we want to be your partner. And you can see up here, we've put some of the statistics up. MMX launched in September, and we have a lot behind it that will help you get to the right consumer at the right time, help you understand mobile, and help you scale in mobile. Over 52 million cross-screen profiles. We have relationships and supply from over 60,000 apps who we have an embedded SDK with, and we reach over 650 million people worldwide. So we look forward to the opportunity to partner with you. Next, I'm going to turn it over for a case study live. Adam Chandler from Millennial Media, who runs our programmatic practice. That would have been funny if I forgot where he worked. And Jim Jones, the CRO of AppLovin.
Great. Nice job. So to start, I think let's talk a little bit about the next level down of programmatic and how do you actually make it work. If you're new to the space or if you're involved in the space, let's talk a little bit about best practices of buying programmatically. I think to start, we've both spent a number of years together at Yahoo and watched sort of the desktop trend happen in programmatic right before our eyes, and we participated in that, and that took a number of years, as Michael said. I think that we've seen mobile programmatically grow in a pronounced way over the last 12 to 18 months, it feels like. We've heard the phrase mobile first, but you don't always hear it programmatic first. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that strategy, because I understand at AppLovin you went programmatic very early to take advantage of that trend, and I'd love you to give some color in terms of how that shift going programmatic first accelerated your business.
Sure. First of all, those that don't know, AppLovin is a programmatic buying platform. We're a little bit unique because we have an ad network as well, so we have a network model, and then we have the DSP side of our business. So and to answer your question, Adam, when we originally started, it was actually 2 years ago. It was before programmatic even existed in mobile. But we built the company with the kind of philosophy that the evolution would take place much like it did in the web. So what we wanted to do was build a technology platform that was highly sophisticated in its ability to leverage inventory on behalf of our advertisers. So we wanted to build in automated things like, bid management, creative management, campaign management, and do it in such a sophisticated way across our ad network that we could then easily plug in to the types of inventory that would become to us or become available to us, like MMX. So we did that probably about 2 years ago. We built the network and we built this automated platform on top of it. And then when companies like MMX became available to us, it kind of put it on steroids, because what it allowed us to do was it allows us to scale our campaigns for those advertisers that had campaign objectives that mattered most to them. So it was really focused. We're a performance network that's focused on going out and acquiring customers, as well as going out and retargeting customers. So we could do that on our own network, but we could only do it at a certain scale. Then when we took that same platform and were able to attach it to the likes of MMX, it allowed us to kind of explode our ability to scale across all of our advertiser campaigns and create more meaningful advertising scale and move the needle more for our advertisers.
Interesting. I think you heard Molly a little bit, and Frank and Michael talk a little bit about premium and programmatic, and I'd love to put to bed the whole notion of programmatic not being a premium strategy. And we know it's obviously very powerful, programmatic that is, when it's applied to real advertising results to drive a business forward, versus sort of cheap rates and cutting resources, which how it was used to defined probably 10 years ago on the desktop side of the world, and that obviously has changed. So I'd love to hear some anecdotes or context around some focused KPIs that you've gotten back from customers while having a focused programmatic strategy has helped you achieve that, different than just sort of a standard manual practice. Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah. So when we first started our network business, what we did, I think like many others in this space, we went out and profiled devices so that we could find out more about our users. And then we evolved that a bit because we were able to develop relationships with clients where they would give us data back and we would have deeper, richer data profiles on our clients. And by combining those two together, we were able to create more relevance in advertising. And that relevance in advertising allowed us to create advertising that was more meaningful to the user. And as we were able to create more meaningful advertising to the user, we saw greater monetization for all of the inventory sets that we were able to apply that against, right? And in my opinion, I think there was a lot of differentiation early in the day where, you had publishers or owners of inventory that would differentiate between programmatic buying and manual buying because programmatic buying simply didn't monetize as well as manual buying. I think then as we evolved our ability to create more relevance in advertising, we saw that monetization started to equalize, if not better, on the programmatic side. So those owners of inventory started to realize that not only could you achieve the same type of monetization, but you could do it at greater scale. And along with the fragmentation that took place at the time, I mean, for you to go out and manually buy enough publishers as a buyer to create meaningful scale was nearly impossible with all the places that you had to buy. So you had this confluence of events that came together that allowed you to go out and create monetization that was equivalent to that of manual type of selling efforts. At the same time, with fragmentation and the ability to resolve that fragmentation through programmatic buying. Those two things happened, and you had less of a differentiation between the inventory, and publishers decided, they said, hey, if I can get the same type of monetization through programmatic and provide more scale to my client base, why would I not do that? So now I think, you hear the quote from Marissa Mayer. I think that what she meant by that is that, if you can go out and you can sell in a programmatic way and do it effectively and create meaning for your consumer as an advertiser and do it at scale, you shouldn't differentiate between these two types of buying.
Have you seen specific advertisers on the advertiser side that have embraced AppLovin at a greater pace with renewals or whatever that KPI might be, so that as a result of how you've been able to accelerate them programmatically?
Yeah, I mean, this goes into kind of the way that we differentiate, right? And one of the biggest ways that we differentiate ourselves is that we go out and, like I said, we go and we get information from clients. So what we do is as a company, we take in large amounts of data as any other kind of programmatic buying company does. But what we try to do is try to understand not only and we have two sides of our business, the acquisition side of our business, as well as the retargeting side of our business. But in order for us to truly differentiate and perform better than anybody else in the marketplace, I think if you could talk to our customers that are working with us, that are integrating in the right way, we do that. And the way that we do that is we take all of this information coming in from both our ability to profile consumers and their devices, as well as the information coming back from the advertiser, and we're able to create patterns of information. And those patterns of information allows us to become predictive, right? So let's use an example. So Nordstrom's a client of ours, right? And who likes to buy shoes from Nordstrom in here? Is there anybody in here who likes to buy shoes from Nordstrom? All right, good. That's a good thing. So we're helping you guys out and spend a lot more money at Nordstrom. So what we do is we will go out and we'll understand what you're shopping for, and you'll fall off the cart. And 99% of the times that you won't buy something is because you decided not to buy that product. You could have gone ahead and pulled the trigger on that product. But what we're doing is we're getting tidbits of information from you and creating patterns and putting that together and understanding what you like, what your habits are. And then the next time we place an ad in front of you, we're becoming predictive in what you're going to take action on next. So it might not be that pair of shoes, but it might be something that fits your style and something that you're going to be most likely to take action on next. And that's really the key differentiator of our business, and that's why we're able to produce better results for advertiser than what I believe anybody else in the industry in the programmatic space.
Great to hear. I think we're close to ending, but regarding differentiation and the mobile startup marketplace, I know we have a number of people in the audience that are coming from smaller companies that are competing on the performance side of the mobile business. Because of the explosive growth in the mobile channel, more companies have entered the fray. And now programmatic is almost becoming green fees with companies that they must have that to compete. So once most of these sort of mobile resources suppliers and companies have programmatic, is it really about sort of the best algorithm? It sounds to me that you have a differentiated approach with relevancy and retargeting and the ability to predict. But what's it like out there? Obviously, we know that well from competing, but from your perspective, what is everyone saying, and where do you get the most competition from?
I mean, we get competition all over the place. There's no question. I think everybody's accepted that mobile's heated up, right? There's no question it works. You're seeing Facebook come into the fray with Fan. It's going to get more and more competitive, right? The ability to differentiate is critical in this space, right? I think for us, what excites us is the ability to differentiate through that patterning of consumer habits and understanding what they're going to buy and how that can extend itself out just beyond what you're seeing today in the example I use for buying shoes at Nordstrom. You think about it, you're booking an airline ticket, and I go up every time I book an airline ticket. They ask me, I'm 6'5", and they're literally asking me, do I want an aisle seat or do I want a window seat? There's no frickin' way I could sit in a window seat because my knees hit the front of the seat, right? They should know that, right? They should have a profile and information about me, and they should automatically be able to build that in. Another example of that is when I walk into the doctor's office and I'm going in there, they should have my information embedded in there and my history and what I'm doing, and be able to have recommendations that are automated based on the history of my medical result. So what excites me the most about being able to differentiate and create extensions off of our business are the ability to take this technology and expand it outward of what we're seeing today in just kind of the normal ad world, and then taking that and pushing that out into every other sector, every other vertical that we're playing in a technology company today.